Hi everyone. Last time, we received several requests to record a video explaining how to work with Supabase, and we decided to do it. Let's start with Supabase configuration. We assume that you already have an account. If not, you need to create one. After that, you need to create a project by providing a name and password. Supabase allows you to store data in tables, create functions, storage, authentication, and much more. The most common feature, of course, store data in tables. Let's create our first table named Notes. We will also add a custom column called Name with the text type. After clicking Save, our first table is created. Let's add the first row with the value Name1. For testing purposes, we will disable RLS. RLS stands for Row Level Security. Don't worry, we will enable it a little bit later. This is done only for testing, and after that, we can start creating our application. Create a new application from the blank template. The easiest way to integrate Supabase is by adding the Supabase plugin. This plugin is very simple. It contains a Supabase screen with some examples of how to work with Supabase, but we can close this screen because everything will be implemented from scratch. The plugin adds 3 storage variables. Supabase URL and Supabase key are configuration values used to connect to Supabase. Supabase itself is a global variable available on every screen and service, allowing you to execute Supabase API calls. To get the Supabase URL and key, navigate to Supabase and click the Connect button. Then go to App Framework and copy the first value as the URL and paste it here. After that, copy the second value and paste it as the key. The first task is retrieving a list of records from the table. For this, create a new screen called Notes and slightly update the layout. On the Notes screen, add a variable called Notes, which is an empty array by default. When the screen is shown, the list of notes should be loaded from Supabase. How to do this we can know from the Supabase documentation. The documentation is very clear, and we need the fetch example. Copy the code snippet and paste it here. An error appears because the Supabase variable is undefined. As mentioned earlier, the plugin adds a global Supabase variable, so it can be accessed by using $v Supabase. Finally, log the response to the console. To test this, update the routing and set the Notes screen as the default screen. After pressing the Preview button, the application is ready. To understand what is going on under the hood, open the Browser Developer Console. The result is null because the table name was set incorrectly. Change it from characters to notes and refresh the screen. The data from the Notes table is successfully loaded. Store this data in the Notes variable. On the Design tab, add a list component and set the ANGI for attribute for list item. We will iterate through the Notes array, where each element is available as note and display note name. In preview mode, we see the note with the value name1. Next, add logic for creating a new note. For that, we will import the Fab plugin. This plugin contains several examples of how a floating action button can be used. Copy this button, return to the Notes screen, and paste it there. After pressing the Add button, a new screen should open. Create a new page called Note. Remove the footer and update the title. Add validation for the note name by placing a form component and an input component inside it. Change the label to name, enable validation, set show error to true, and mark the field as required. The user input will be available as item name. Set the default value of the item variable as an empty object. Add a save button, which will invoke the save function. Define the save function. In the Supabase documentation, we will get the example for inserting data. Copy the snippet and paste it into the function. Update the table name to Notes and use $v Supabase. To enable form validation, check this checkbox. To show loading, we need to enable this checkbox. Remove the predefined object and replace it with item. Add error handling by logging errors to the console and showing them using the show error method. If there is no error, show a toast message and navigate back. This screen works best as a modal screen.
To close it programmatically, use Close and Mint function. Enable the modal screen property. On the Notes screen, update the Add button logic. When pressed, it should open the modal note screen. After closing the modal, reload the notes data. This can be done by moving the fetch logic into a separate load data function and calling it both on screen enter and after adding a note. Refresh the application and press the FAB button. The note screen opens. Pressing save without entering a name shows a validation error. Enter name 2 and save it. A toast message appears, and the new note is displayed.
If you open the Notes table in Supabase, both Name 1 and Name 2 are here. Similar logic can be added for updating and deleting data. However, the table is currently unrestricted, meaning anyone has full access. In real applications, data must be protected, so row-level security should be enabled. Enable RLS and refresh the application. The screen becomes empty because no policies are defined. Add a new policy for the Notes table. For the select operation, allow access only to authenticated users and restrict access so each user sees only their own notes. An error appears because the table does not have a user ID column. Add a new column named User ID with the UUID type. Save the table and create the policy again. Add another policy for the insert operation so that only authenticated users can create notes. Save the policy. Update the user ID column to have a default value equal to the current user's ID. Since only authenticated users can work with the Notes table, authentication must be configured. Go to Authentication, select Providers, and open Sign In. Email authentication is enabled by default. For testing purposes, disable email confirmation temporarily. Open the Users section and create a test user with an email and password. Since authentication is required, add a login screen. Create a new page using the login template. Username and password are available as data username and data password. Pressing the login button invokes the login function. In the Supabase documentation, find the example for user sign-in and paste it into the login function. Use $v Supabase and rename username to email. Use the data variable instead of a hard-coded value. Handle errors by logging them and showing an error message. If login is successful, navigate to the Notes screen. Set the login screen as the default route. Test login with an invalid password to see the error. Use the correct password to log in successfully. Create a new note and verify that the user ID column is populated correctly in Supabase. Next, add user sign-up logic. Create a new page from the sign-up template. Configure routing to navigate to this page. The sign-up screen contains input fields and a sign-up button that invokes the sign-up function. In the Supabase documentation, find the example for user registration. Copy and paste it into the sign-up function and add $v Supabase. Remove unnecessary fields and keep only email and password. Rename username to email. Use the data variable instead of a hard-coded value. Handle errors and navigate back to the login screen after successful registration. Attempt to register with an existing email to see the error. Register a new user and verify that the user appears in Supabase. Log in as the second user. No notes are visible because each user can only see their own data. Create a new note to confirm this behavior. On the next step, enable email confirmation in authentication settings. Create another user and observe that the user is marked as unverified. A confirmation email is sent. User can open the email and confirm the account. In mobile applications, confirmation is often done using a code instead of a link. Open email settings and configure sign-up emails to use a token instead of a confirmation URL. Adjust the token length if needed. Remove test user. Test again by creating a new user. Attempting to log in before verification produces an email not confirmed error. Update the login function to handle this error by navigating to a confirmation code screen. Add the code input plugin. Configure the code length and implement the completion logic. Replace the default alert with Supabase one-time password verification logic. Pass both the token and the email to the verification function. Mark the confirmation screen as modal and add an email variable. Pass the email from the login screen when opening the modal. Handle verification errors and show success feedback before closing the modal. Test by entering an incorrect code and observing the error. Enter the correct code from the email to verify the user. After verification, login works successfully and notes can be created. Finally, we will demonstrate how to invoke an edge function. Select an example edge function that accepts a name in the request body and returns a response. Deploy and test it. Update screen 1 to include a test button that invokes the edge function. Copy the invocation example from the Supabase documentation and paste it into the function logic. Provide the function name and request body. Test the function and observe a CORS error. Apply the recommended CORS configuration from the documentation and redeploy the function. An authorization error appears next, so disable the legacy JWT approach and handle authorization inside the function code. After saving changes and testing again, the function responds successfully with a message like, "Hello, Alex." That's everything we wanted to show in this video. We hope it helps you get started with Supabase integration. If you have any questions or issues, feel free to contact us support@apery.io. Thanks for watching.